The most insecure people you will ever meet will never once describe themselves as insecure. In fact, if you asked them directly, they would probably laugh, or get defensive, or give you a long, confident explanation of why that particular word doesn't apply to them. And here's the uncomfortable part. They'd mean every word of it. This isn't performance. This isn't someone pretending not to know. This is someone who genuinely, completely, does not have access to the information that they are running one of the most insecurity-driven lives in any room they walk into. Carl Jung spent decades trying to understand how this is possible, how a person can be so thoroughly shaped by something they cannot see in themselves. And the answer he landed on is one of the most useful and most unsettling ideas in all of psychology. He called it the shadow. The shadow is the part of yourself you've pushed out of conscious awareness, not because you're lying to yourself exactly, because the process of growing up, of fitting in, of becoming the version of yourself that other people found acceptable, that process required pushing certain things underground. Anger, fear, neediness, weakness, ambition. Whatever it was in your specific household, your specific childhood, that got punished or shamed or simply went unwitnessed. Into the shadow it went, out of sight, out of reach, but not gone, never gone. And here's where I want you involved before we go any further, because I want your honest reaction to this. Think of the most confident-seeming person you know, the one who never seems rattled, never seems to doubt themselves, maybe even comes across as slightly arrogant. Hold them in your mind, because by the end of this video, I want to know, do they fit any of the 7 signs? Drop a number in the comments, just a number, 1 through 7, for whichever one you think fits them best. We'll come back to it. But I also want to plant something right now, before we start the list, because it's going to change how the whole video lands. The 7 signs we're about to go through are not really about someone else. Not ultimately. They're about all of us, at different moments, to different degrees. Jung's whole framework is built on the idea that the shadow isn't a thing certain broken people have. It's a thing every human being has, without exception. What varies is how much of it is running the show without the person knowing. Hold that. It pays off at the end. Let's get into the 7 signs. Sign 1. They need to win every disagreement. Not just important ones. Everyone, including ones so small they barely qualify as disagreements. The mildly different opinion about a movie, the minor factual correction nobody else at the table cared about, the interpretation of an event from 3 years ago that has no practical relevance to anyone's present life. If you've spent time around someone like this, you know the particular exhaustion it produces. You learn after a while not to contradict them in public, not because you're afraid of them exactly, because you've seen enough times what happens when you do, the energy that gets mobilized, the sudden need to establish who was right, the conversation that can't move forward until the disagreement is fully resolved in their favor. It's tiring in a way that's hard to articulate until you understand what's actually happening underneath it. Jung would point you directly at the shadow here. For someone whose early experience included feeling powerless, dismissed, unheard, or for someone whose worth was tied directly to being right, to being the smart one, to intellectual performance as a survival strategy, losing an argument doesn't register in the nervous system as merely losing an argument. It registers as something much older and much more threatening. Being wrong feels in the body like being small, like being the version of themselves that once wasn't enough. The shadow, carrying all those old experiences of smallness and dismissal, floods the present moment with an urgency that's wildly out of proportion to what's actually at stake. This is why you can't win an argument with someone like this by being more right. Being more right is the problem. The more correct you are, the more the old wound gets activated, and the more energy gets mobilized to close it. What looks from the outside like stubbornness or arrogance is, from the inside, a survival response, old, automatic, and completely invisible to the person having it. Picture a man named Victor at a dinner party. Someone makes a casual observation about a historical event, not even the point of the conversation, just a passing remark. Victor gently corrects them. The other person accepts the correction, moves on. Victor doesn't. He comes back to it twice more during the evening, offering additional supporting details nobody asked for, building a case for a point that was already conceded. Nobody at the table understands why. Victor doesn't understand why either, not consciously. What he's actually doing, what the shadow is actually doing through him, is confirming again that he knows things, that he is the one who knows things, that being the one who knows things is still true and still safe tonight. Sign 2, they're threatened by other people's success. Here's a test you can run almost invisibly in any conversation. Tell someone close to you about a genuine win, a promotion, a relationship going well, something good and real happening in your life. Not bragging, just sharing, the way friends share. And then watch, not what they say, what they do in the half-second before they say it. Whether the good news lands in them the way good news lands in someone who is genuinely happy to be near your happiness, or whether something else happens first. A barely perceptible pause, a fractional rearrangement of expression, something crossing the face before the smile arrives to cover it. That pause is the shadow. And it happens because for a deeply insecure person, other people's success doesn't arrive as neutral information. It arrives as a comparison, a measurement, an implicit question about their own standing that they didn't ask and didn't want answered. Your promotion isn't just your promotion. In their nervous system, without them ever choosing this response, it becomes evidence of where they are relative to where you are. And if where you are is higher, something in them registers that as a threat. Jung would say this is the shadow carrying a wound around worth that hasn't healed, a belief buried below the level of conscious access that worth is finite and competitive, that if you have more of it, there is somehow less available for them. Consciously, they believe no such thing. They tell you sincerely that they're happy for you. And they are, partly, at the surface level where conscious thought lives. But the shadow doesn't operate at that level, and the pause that comes before the smile is the shadow being honest for the half-second before the persona takes over. Watch for what comes after the pause. The most common response is a redirect, a pivot towards something going well in their own life, delivered just slightly faster and with slightly more energy than the moment calls for. The joy gets acknowledged and then gently, smoothly eclipsed. Not because they planned this, because the nervous system needed to rebalance the comparison that your good news had briefly destabilized. Sign 3. They name drop, status drop, or achievement drop constantly. This one is almost jovial to observe once you see it clearly, because it's so consistent and so transparent from the outside, and so completely invisible to the person doing it. You know the pattern. Every third sentence references someone important they know, somewhere impressive they've been, something significant they've done, and the references come in whether the conversation calls for them or not. You're talking about where to get good coffee, and somehow, within 4 exchanges, the conversation has arrived at the time they had a meeting with someone notable, or the year they lived in a city famous for its coffee culture, or the fact that they know someone who runs a coffee brand. None of the individual references are necessarily false. That's what makes this sign easy to dismiss. Each drop is technically accurate, probably, but the pattern, the frequency, the timing, the way these references appear with such regularity regardless of what the conversation was actually about, that's not information sharing. That's the shadow managing anxiety. Jung would describe what's happening here as the persona working overtime. The persona, remember, is the social mask, the curated version of yourself you present to the world. For a deeply insecure person, the persona becomes a full-time project, because the gap between who they present as and how they actually feel about themselves is so wide that it requires constant maintenance. The name drop, the status drop, the achievement drop. Each one is a small brick being added to the wall of the persona, a tiny piece of evidence offered to the room that they belong here, that they are significant, that the insecurity running quietly underneath has no basis. What's almost poignant about this sign, if you can hold it with enough distance, is that the very frequency of the references tends to produce the opposite effect from the one intended. Most people feel the performance even when they can't name it. The confidence being signaled so loudly creates, in the people listening, not admiration, but a faint, instinctive discomfort. The same discomfort you feel when someone tries just a little too hard for the situation. The persona is working furiously to close a gap that the shadow keeps reopening. Sign 4. They can't take a compliment without deflecting or topping it. This one surprises people because we tend to associate insecurity with the need for validation. And that's true. But the relationship between insecurity and compliments is stranger and more paradoxical than it first appears. Watch what a deeply insecure person does when they receive genuine, specific, heartfelt praise. Not hollow flattery, real recognition of something they did well or are. For many of them, something goes wrong in the moment. Not visibly, not dramatically. The compliment lands, and instead of being received, instead of the simple, settled thank you of someone who can actually hold being seen positively, there's a maneuver, a deflection. Oh, it was nothing really, anyone would have done it. Or its opposite, a topping. Well, that's just one thing. You should see what I've been working on lately. Both moves do the same thing. They prevent the compliment from actually landing, from being fully received, from touching the place in the person it was aimed at. Jung would explain this as the shadow's interference with the persona. The persona needs validation, needs it constantly, hungers for it. But when it actually arrives, something in the deeper system can't quite accept it, because the shadow is sitting underneath, holding a counter-narrative, that the compliment isn't really true, or isn't really deserved, or will be proven wrong eventually, or comes with an expectation attached that will be impossible to meet. The insecurity that drove the need for the compliment is the same insecurity that prevents the compliment from doing its job once it arrives. Picture a woman named Camille who has spent years becoming genuinely excellent at what she does. Her work is recognized at an event, a real, specific public acknowledgement in front of her peers. She laughs, deflects, credits her team extensively, makes a joke that redirects the attention, and spends the rest of the evening feeling vaguely hollow in a way she can't explain. What she wanted for years just happened, and it somehow didn't touch the thing it was supposed to touch. Because the thing it was supposed to touch, that deep, shadow-level belief about her own worth, isn't accessible from the outside. No amount of external validation can reach it, which is why the hunger never quite goes away, and why the compliments, no matter how many arrive, never quite fill the space they were meant for. Sign 5. They make everything about themselves in a crisis. Here's one that operates at a very specific moment, so pay close attention to timing. Watch what happens when someone around a deeply insecure person is going through something hard. Not something that directly involves the insecure person. Something happening to someone else. A friend's difficult diagnosis, a colleague's job loss, a family member's painful relationship ending. Watch how long it takes for the conversation to migrate from the person experiencing the crisis to the insecure person's experience of being near someone experiencing the crisis. This is so hard for me to hear. I've been so worried about you, I haven't been sleeping. Watching you go through this has been really difficult for me too. These sentences aren't lies. The distress being expressed is real. But notice where the distress lands. Not on the person having the crisis, but on the person adjacent to it. The crisis has become, in the span of a few sentences, partly theirs. Jung would identify this as what happens when someone's internal regulation system is so dependent on external emotional states that other people's intense emotions automatically get metabolized as their own experience. The insecure person isn't consciously redirecting. Their nervous system simply can't hold another person's emotional reality without that reality flooding into their own. They don't have enough internal container for their own experience, let alone the experience of someone nearby who's drowning. The result is that the person who needed support ends up, somehow, managing two sets of distress instead of one, their own, and the distress of the person who was supposed to be supporting them. It's one of the quietest and most exhausting dynamics in close relationships, because it's very hard to name without sounding unkind. How do you tell someone that their concern for you is making your crisis harder, that their worry is something you now have to carry alongside your own? Sign 6. They use humor to avoid being seen. This one requires the most nuance of the 7, so I want to be precise about what I'm describing, because humor is genuinely one of the great human gifts, and the sign isn't that someone is funny. It's something much more specific. Watch for humor that arrives at the exact moment someone starts to be emotionally visible. A conversation moves towards something real, someone shares something vulnerable, or asks a question that goes deeper than the surface, or the room gets quiet in the way rooms get quiet when something true is about to be said. And then, from the deeply insecure person in the room, a joke. Not cruel, not even badly timed necessarily, just present, redirecting, releasing the pressure that was building in the direction of genuine exposure. For someone whose early experience taught them that being seen fully was dangerous, that vulnerability led to rejection or mockery or simply indifference, humor became a tool of enormous value. It lets you be present in a moment without being exposed by it. It lets you control the emotional temperature of a room without appearing to control it. It lets you be liked without being known. And for the deeply insecure person, being liked without being known is often the closest thing to safety they've found. Jung would say the humor in these moments is the persona at its most sophisticated. The joke isn't an accident, and it isn't malice. It's a survival mechanism so well rehearsed it's become reflex, the same way a hand moves to protect a face before the conscious mind has processed the incoming object. The insecurity that drives it isn't visible in the moment because the humor covering it is warm and often genuinely funny, and the room laughs, and the dangerous moment of real visibility passes without anyone, including the insecure person, having to inhabit it. Sign 7. They're exhausting to reassure. This is the last sign, and it's the one that tends to quietly end the closest relationships, so I want to give it the space it deserves. There's a particular dynamic that builds up around a deeply insecure person over time. The people close to them learn through accumulated experience that reassurance is required, regularly, specifically, and with effort. Of course I still care about you. No, I wasn't upset by what you said. Yes, I think you handled that well. No, I don't think less of you for it. And the reassurance works. For a while, until it needs to be given again, which tends to be sooner each time and with slightly higher stakes, and for slightly less specific reasons. The reason the reassurance never fully holds is the same reason Camille's compliment never fully landed. The wound being managed isn't in the relationship, it's in the shadow. No amount of external input can permanently repair something that exists underground, in the part of the psyche that wasn't built by words and can't be rebuilt by them. The reassurance soothes the surface. The shadow, untouched, regenerates the anxiety, and the people doing the reassuring gradually reach a point of depletion, not because they stopped caring, but because they've been asked to fill a container that has no bottom, and the filling never holds, and the request comes again. Jung would say this is one of the clearest signs that what the insecure person actually needs is not more reassurance from outside, but the slow, difficult work of building a relationship with their own shadow, acknowledging the wound, sitting with it, integrating it, rather than constantly outsourcing the management of it to the people closest to them. So here's the thing I planted at the very start, and I want you to hold it honestly. The 7 signs we just went through aren't really a guide to identifying other people, or they are that. They're genuinely useful for understanding the behavior of a specific kind of person in your life. But Jung's framework doesn't actually allow you to stop there, because the shadow isn't something only certain damaged people carry. It's something every human being carries, formed in every childhood, by every family, in every culture that ever asked a child to be something other than fully, completely themselves. Which means if you've been listening to these 7 signs and nodding along, thinking of someone specific, and that person is only ever someone else, there's a question worth sitting with. Not accusingly, just honestly. Because the sign you most easily recognize in someone else is very often the sign that's doing its quietest work in you. The need to win every disagreement, the flinch at other people's success, the achievement that surfaces in every conversation, the compliment that can't quite land, the crisis that somehow becomes about you, the joke that arrives at exactly the wrong moment, the reassurance that never holds. One of them probably just got a little quiet in your chest. That's the shadow saying hello, not to embarrass you, not to condemn you, just to let you know it's there, in case you were curious about what it's been carrying. Now, go back to the number you were going to drop in the comments at the start, the sign you thought of for someone specific. Drop it. And if you're feeling honest today, tell me, which one fits you even a little? Because I think that second answer is the more interesting one, and I think the comment section on this video is going to be more honest than usual. If this gave you something to sit with, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.